हम मानते हैं कि दुनिया को बेहतर बनाने के लिए जरूरी है एक सोच कि दुनिया बेहतरी के रंगों से निखर सकती है। एक सोच कि अच्छाई के रंग हम सब पर खिलते हैं। एक सोच कि ये रंग जब फैलेंगे तो खुद में खुशियां समेट लाएंगे। और इन्हीं बदलाव के रंगों को हम आपसे शेयर करते हैं, उस सोच के साथ जो जाती है हैप्पी रेनबो बॉक्स में।
Moving on to our first panel discussion of the conclave, Building New India in Post-Pandemic World. We have with us Mr. Vinayak Chatterjee, Chairman of Feedback Infra, Mr. Vijay Chibber, Director General, Electric Power Transmission Association, and he's also the former Union Secretary of Ministry of Road, Transport and Highways, and Mr. Sumant Sinha, Chairman and Managing Director of Renew Power. Let's take a listen. Hello and a very warm welcome to the State of States Conclave. This year, we are back with another stellar conversation, this time on the subject of infrastructure. It's no surprise that infrastructure is being touted as one of the key sectors that will steer the economy in the post-pandemic world. The Prime Minister, in his 15th August Independence Day address, spoke about the importance of focusing and building on our infrastructure pipeline. And to discuss this, to discuss the possibilities and the challenges ahead, I have with me Mr. Vinayak Chatterjee, Mr. Sumant Sinha, and Mr. Vijay Chibber, all veterans in the infrastructure space in India. Let me begin by asking Mr. Chatterjee, the Prime Minister and the government overall has made infrastructure as one of its key pillars on which they have tried to build the whole narrative around economy, around development. I want to talk to you about the National Infrastructure Pipeline and the projects that have been identified under it. How do you look at it? What's your assessment of the whole plan that the government has announced?
Thanks for that questioning, because the National Infrastructure Pipeline, what it does is that it brings infrastructure center stage. And please remember that it was announced before COVID. So people are now mistakenly thinking that it is a response to COVID. It's not a response to COVID. It was announced on 31st December evening, on New Year's Eve, if I may put it that way. So the government actually decided to put infrastructure development as the maypole around which the rest of the economy would dance around because of the high multiplier effects. Now, the NIP has two issues which deserve attention and discussion. One is that it envisages an investment of about 20 lakh crores per annum, because the size across 5 years is 111 lakh crores. So roughly, let's say 21 lakh crores per annum, a little lower in the earlier years, a little higher in the latter years. So there are two challenges here. One is the financing challenge and one is the implementation challenge. On the financing challenge, the government, the finance minister, and everybody, PMO, have come to the conclusion that it has to be largely public funded. And therefore, one of the solutions which are likely to emerge now is the issue of a developmental financial institution, a new DFI for infrastructure. I have been privileged to be a member of the committee that is just submitting its report, recommending a DFI, which will actually look more at the developmental finance with economic returns and not just private PE funds with financial returns and IRR. So I'm trying to keep it crisp, but that's the financing challenge. On the implementation challenge, I will make an important point that to deliver 20 lakh crores of investment on the ground every year, in a situation where the length of an infrastructure project is 4 years, you require a pipeline of cooked projects of 4 times the amount, say of 80 lakh crores. Now, we are nowhere close to that level of project development work.
Right.
And therefore, the solution recommended there is to set up something like the old PMG that was set up in the last 2 years of the UPA government, but with a new avatar. Let's call it, for want of anything else, the Infrastructure Implementation Group, consisting of a high-powered set of bureaucrats and technocrats from the private sector, and inevitably, in today's times, anchored with the Prime Minister's office, to cut through the entire set of impediments that go towards project development and implementation. I'm going to stop here now to say that's the National Infrastructure Pipeline target. very apt for the times, particularly post-COVID. There's a challenge of financing where the DFI may be one answer among many, many other financing options. And on the implementation side, we now do require a very high-powered group attached to the PMO to create an 80 lakh crore pipeline. But let me stop here.
Okay, let me come to Mr. Chibber. Mr. Chibber, you've been with the government. You were at the forefront of driving a lot of reforms in the first term of the Modi government in the infrastructure space. How are you reading into this new project, the new plan that's been announced?
Thank you, Shweta, for having me on your show. Well, I think, one of the most significant contributions of the Modi government, not only in last 31st December, but even before that, has been this very unequivocal focus on infrastructure. So I think the announcements last December, which Vinayak refers to, that is only a sort of sequel to the grand positioning of infrastructure in the overall scheme of things. And it's, I think, very appropriate that at least the thought process is big. Vinayak has also referred to some of the problems in terms of lack of project development commensurate with the size of the overall objective. And I think that is a very major lacuna presently. But I think even more than that is the fact that public finances in the post-COVID era are going to be under stress. So I think we need to revisit that overall game plan. And this, the main driver identified for that game plan was public expenditure. And I think that is a strategy which needs to be revisited. I think we will have to cut our sort of coat according to the cloth and provide greater and additional space for the private sector. There is huge amount of private money floating globally. And I think it's a question, the challenge really is how to allow that money to flow into Indian infrastructure as seamlessly as possible. So I think because in terms of the legal and regulatory frameworks, I think systems are already in place. Perhaps with the exception of energy storage, which is still the regulatory parts it's a work in progress. But in all other verticals in the infrastructure space, I think broadly the legal and regulatory systems are in place. The SPDs have been well developed, and where they need some tweaking, line ministries have been empowered to take those forward. I think the real constraint is going to be capital and public expenditure in the magnitude that was originally envisaged. And I think we need to therefore look at how to provide more space for private sector and to keep the public investments focused on those areas where the private sector is either unable or unwilling to invest.
Interesting. Let's bring Sumant in here. Sumant, you represent the private sector. You have the daunting challenge of actually making and getting things going on ground. So when you hear the Prime Minister, when we hear several ministers talk about the focus on infrastructure, how do you as an industry player see it? And what would you like to see this entire vision? I mean, how would you like to see this vision being implemented?
Yeah, thank you, Shweta. Look, I think that we've had very, very insightful comments by both Vinayak and Vijay. And it actually is very enlightening for me as well to hear what they had to say about the government's overall approach and so on. As a practitioner, as somebody who's operating in one of the infrastructure sectors, I would say that certainly the government has been much more forthcoming on building out infrastructure and taking appropriate steps than had been the case in the past. And we've seen specific attempts of that happening. I would say our sector, which is the renewable energy sector, has certainly benefited tremendously from the government's significant focus on building out, the energy space. And so therefore, I would say that we've actually had the government's wind on our back rather than on our faces. And so that's been very positive. Having said that, there are a number of issues. And I'll just take on from what both Vinayak and Vijay have said.
Sure.
So I think in terms of giving space to private sector participation, so I'll talk a little bit first about the financing and talk about that comment, and then I'll talk about the implementation part. So on the financing part, we need to create more space for the private sector. Now, and there is adequate capital that is willing to come in because there is a tremendous amount of global liquidity that is looking for really good opportunities to invest. And especially post-COVID, that capital is going to be looking for growth opportunities or growth-oriented opportunities. And what could be better than a growing market like India to provide a home to that capital? The only thing that capital requires is two things. It requires one, adequate returns,
Right.
and two, it requires adequate surety of those returns coming through. Now, those are two areas where we still need to do a lot of work, because in giving returns to the private sector, we have to price the infrastructure in a certain way. And I'm not sure yet that different levels of government, and when I talk about government, I don't talk just about the central government, but I talk about the regulatory environment, I talk about the state governments as well. I don't know that they have yet fully got their arms around the fact that they have to give returns to get this capital. So I think that requires a bit of a mindset change. So that's one issue that I think we have to really accommodate in our thought process about how to get this capital to come in.
Mm-hmm.
The second very important issue is execution on the ground. However much we try, today we just don't have the capability to get all of these projects actually physically executed on the ground across multiple sectors. And that's not just a function of, again, central government intervention, because central government is very, pro getting all of this done. It's again the question of the entire system of India, which goes all the way from the legal side to the regulatory side to the approvals on the ground to state governments and so on. And I fear that all too often we have, blockages that come up in
Right.
project implementation, which nobody can solve because these are systemic issues that it's part of our system. I mean, just to give a very simple example, the Andhra Pradesh government tried to walk out of our PPAs. That case has now been pending in the High Court for 9 months. Okay, it's a long time. Now, unless we have resolution of that, that is actually becoming a big roadblock to driving more capital coming into the renewable energy sector. So now this is in nobody's control. And it's those kinds of issues, and I just give that as an example, where things happen which create road blockages on the ground, and that really causes problems to this entire execution chain, and then leads to questions arising in people's minds within the capital providers about really how good a place is India to get returns.
Sure.
And so therefore it goes back to the point that Vijay was making earlier, how do we provide this space? And so there are these practical issues that we have to solve. They won't get solved overnight.
Yeah.
I think the government is trying to do their best, the central government, and I think they have to just keep at it. And over a longer period of time, it'll come to pass that the mindset about India as an investment destination begins to change.
So, like you just mentioned about the coordination between the center and the states. Center might spell out a vision, but the states is where you're going to be investing your projects, building your roads, highways, power plants, whatever you might want to be building. And that's where the regulatory bottlenecks comes into play. And I think whenever I do speak to the private sector, this is one big concern, even though the government has been trying to focus on this ease of doing business for a really long time. And we did go up the rankings in the World Bank Index as well. Specific to infrastructure sector, can perhaps I'll start with Mr. Chatterjee, can we identify 3 or 4 big regulatory bottlenecks that we feel are important for the government to prioritize and look into to get things moving on ground and to get these investments to come to fruition?
Well, in the regulatory space, and Sumant will agree with me, the big elephant in the room is electricity regulators. I mean, what bigger failure do we see in the regulatory framework than the architecture of central and state electricity regulators, what they were conceived to be and what they have delivered? In fact, the fresh thinking in the corridors of power in the power ministry and elsewhere is actually a complete revamp of the electricity regulatory framework to make them more accountable for the reasons they exist, and less to be handmaidens of political processes at the state level. So if you really ask me, the biggest regulatory overhaul that is required is in electricity regulation. Otherwise, the DISCOMs today would not be sitting on 1,40,000 crores of overdue payments, and in a sense being single-handedly responsible for the mess in the power sector with stranded capacities and people not being paid on time. If I have to prioritize the biggest regulatory overhaul the nation requires, it is the architecture of electricity regulation.